Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Wassman, Chief Medical Officer and Head of Clinical Development for MAR-Bio. Thank you for your interest in MAR-Bio and the MAR-Autism test. Maternal autoantibody-related autism, MARA, is a discrete subset of autism that's reproducibly detected by the MAR-Autism test. Multiple academic studies and validation studies in two independent CLIA laboratories show remarkably similar detection rates and test performance. Each autoantibody test in the profile has a very high analytical sensitivity. Cutoffs were optimized for high specificity, low false positive rates, with reasonable test positive rates for each clinical indication. Based on these, the test detects a subset of between 12 and 18% of all autism in clinical lab validation. This can be thought of as sensitivity, but since there is no other gold standard for MARA, this is a significant underestimate of its performance. If a mother with a child showing signs of autism tests positive, the test has a 95% specificity, that is, only a 5% false positive rate. A diagnosis of autism in the child is 3.6 times more likely than before testing, or the odds of autism are roughly 5 to 1. The overall risk of an autism diagnosis is 83% based upon the clinical population in the CHARGE study at the Mind Institute, UC Davis. If a mother with a previous biological child who's been diagnosed with autism tests positive, the test has a 97% specificity, which is only a 3% false positive rate. A diagnosis of autism in a subsequent child is 4 times more likely than before testing. The overall risk of an autism diagnosis in a subsequent child is 64% based upon the prevalence in the clinical population in the MARBLE study at the Mind Institute, UC Davis. This is as yet unpublished data. The odds of autism in a subsequent child are more than doubled compared to the general and gender-specific recurrence risks for autism. The MAR-Autism test can provide families and clinicians with actionable information to accelerate the path to clinical diagnosis for the child and earlier behavioral intervention. It may enable more informed subsequent reproductive decision-making and considerations of alternative strategies. It may eventually enable interventions to eliminate or decrease the transfer of these maternal autoantibodies. In either of the described settings, it's important to understand what a negative result on a MAR-Autism test does and does not mean. A negative test result for the MARA subtype does not exclude the diagnosis of another form of autism in a symptomatic child or one who has failed another screening test. It does not preclude the risk of a subsequent child having autism of some form. Therefore, other tests, such as genetic testing, should be considered with your clinician. And lastly, the test does not indicate that there is anything wrong with the mother or that she's the cause of autism in her child.